Are you a landlord concerned about the Writers' Rent Reform Bill? Do you have questions and want to know more? My name's Kayla and this is my colleague Steph, and we're from Mark Templar Residential Lettings, and we're here to discuss the details.
With the abolishment of Section 21 notices, will a landlord still be able to evict a tenant if they need to?
Yeah, so landlords will still be able to evict a tenant. Essentially, they just need to give a reason. So whereas currently we can serve a Section 21 notice, which is a no-fault eviction, instead we will look at serving other notices, for instance, maybe a Section 8, which is commonly used for if a tenant is in breach of their tenancy agreement, or if there's a statutory reason a landlord wants their property back.
Under the new rules, can landlords still sell their properties?
Yeah, so a landlord can still sell their property. So they can sell their property as a buy-to-let, so with a tenant still in situ, or if they choose to sell, they can serve their tenants with 4 months' notice, providing this happens after the first 12 months of the tenancy starting. If a landlord wants to increase their rent, what will the notice period be?
So as it stands, a landlord has to supply their tenants 1 month's notice to increase their rent, and that is in line with their rent due date. This is likely to change to 2 months' notice, again still in line with their rent due date, and it can be increased annually, so every 12 months. With the new legislation, if a tenant falls into rental arrears, can we still serve them notice?
So yes, essentially it will be the same as it is now, but the notice periods have been extended. So currently, if a tenant is in 2 or more months of rental arrears, the landlord can serve them with 2 weeks' notice. So under the new rules, the tenants need to be in 3 months or more rental arrears, and the landlords will need to serve them with 4 weeks' notice. It's important to note that tenants need to be in 3 months' worth of rental arrears at the time of the notice being served, as well as the time of the court hearing. You know, that won't always be the case, and so therefore we can also serve other notices. For instance, we would serve notice to the tenant for being consistently late on payments or being in some rental arrears. So under the new legislation, will landlords still be able to have a fixed term tenancy?
Okay, so new tenancies will be a periodic tenancy, so a rolling tenancy, and any pre-existing tenancy will also change to a periodic tenancy, and there'll be no fixed term agreements. I think another concern that landlords have is whether there's going to be a cap on increasing the rent at their properties with the new legislation. So just wondering sort of what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, okay, so the way that the Act is drafted at the moment, there is no cap to rent increases. So agents and landlords will continue to review rents on an annual basis, just as we do now. As we do now, you know, we contact tenants, we give them notice of the rent increase, and we just need to ensure that the increase is manageable, it's fair, and it's in line with the current rental market. So a tenant does have the right to ask a tribunal to assess whether it is a fair increase, and then the tribunal will have the ability to either increase or decrease the rent.
So very much as what we do now, where we review the rents annually then?
Yeah, so for all of our managed landlords, we review the rents annually, we make contact with the landlord and the tenant. So as agents, we will continue to review the rents annually.
What will happen with rent increases when the new regulations come in?
So currently we have to give tenants 1 month's notice of a rent increase in line with their rent due date. When the new rules come into place, we would be giving them 2 months notice, again in line with their rent due date, and the same will apply that we can only increase the rent once annually. So not much is changing, it's just the notice period.
Okay, right. So I think there's a concern that with the new legislation coming in, that landlords will have to accept pets at their properties. Could you give us a bit more information about that?
Essentially, tenants still have to ask permission, so permission still has to be granted by the landlord. A landlord can say no, but the permission can't be unreasonably withheld. There will be many circumstances where a pet isn't appropriate, and so the landlord still has the right to say no.
Okay, so is there a way that a landlord can be protected if they do say yes to having a pet at the property?
Yeah, so if a landlord agrees to the tenant having a pet at the property, they can request that the tenant takes out an appropriate insurance to sort of cover the pet and any damage to the property. Or in turn, a landlord can take out their own insurance and charge that back to the tenant. So a landlord is still protected, and as is the property.
So what should our landlords do now?
So we're here to guide you through the process. You know, we're staying informed, we're keeping up to date, and when the new rules and the legislation comes into effect, then we'll implement any changes and keep you and your tenants up to date.
How can a landlord manage the risk of a tenant falling into rent arrears?
So landlords do have the option of taking out a rent recovery policy. That will protect them if a tenant were to fall into rental arrears, and they can claim on that policy to support them with the rents if a tenant fails to pay. There is also options where they can take out a policy to do with legal fees. You know, if a tenant were to fall into rental arrears and then you're in a situation where you're going through the courts to evict them. We do have a rent recovery policy that we offer to all our landlords. So if this is something that you feel that could be of interest to you, then do reach out and any member of the team can go through the options with you.
So for landlords listening now, why should they consider using an agent, and specifically why Mark Templar?
So using a letting agent to manage your rental property can offer several benefits, especially if you're new to the renting out process, or you simply just want to save time and effort. Here at Mark Templar, you know, we're here to provide expert knowledge. We've got a really experienced team and we're well versed in the laws and regulations, ensuring that your property and the rental process comply with all the legal requirements. So we're here to take care of the day-to-day management and minimise your stress, allowing you to focus on other priorities. And we ensure that all legal, financial and maintenance issues are taken care of. So by ensuring your property is well maintained, priced appropriately and properly marketed, we can help you maximise your rental income and keep your tenants happy.